Hello and welcome to the full-on tutorial of the Shopware 6 connector. In this video we will have a look at every major step in the synchronization of the Contentserv PIM to a Shopware system. I also recommend this video to all new users because the basics like the station Datamap job structure are covered here as well, and they can be applied for every connector. This video won't be as tightly scripted as, say, a release spotlight and thus not be as accent-free. Nonetheless, it will still have YouTube timestamps, so you can skip forward if you already know a bit or to look something up. Introduction to Shopware 6 and the Shopware 6 connector. So, Shopware 6 is an e-commerce system, and in the projects that I've been working with it's mostly the last system in the chain. For example, you have an ERP system that exports to Contentserv and then from Contentserv to Shopware, and very often Shopware 6 is the last station because you can build really great looking shops with Shopware 6. This here, what you can see is the back end, where you can then manage all the data that got sent to the system by the connector. And the main components that we will have a look at are the products, of course, the categories, the properties, maybe a bit manufacturer, and of course media that is connected to the product. And what is really nice about Shopware 6 is, for example, here the sales channels. They represent different views on your shop, and they can also be perfectly synchronized with the connector to manage them separately. For example, in a different channel, let's say a German one where the category tree should look somehow different, then you can add a different store view, a different sales channel with different categories, etc. Otherwise, there are many options in Shopware 6. It is also open source, so the code is visible to everyone in the world. And options like, for example, the available currencies are also synchronized with the connector, but we will have a look at this later. Now to the connector. The Shopware 6 connector is the newest one in the connector family. And what I will be using right now is the newest version, the 1.14.3, which isn't even released yet. And we will be exporting to the Shopware version 6.4.9, but be rest assured, every version will support every version. So we will always update the connector if new Shopware versions appear. With some integral changes, we will accustom to them. And the Shopware 6 connector, it is the most advanced connector. It uses the newest system that we developed with our team, and it mainly communicates with the Shopware target system via the API. So you always add a user specifically for the communication. It is located here. And in earlier states, you can also add an access key, but these were kind of problematic. So right now you just log in with a normal user. So we have a user admin here, and I will use that user for the communication between the connector and Shopware. Building the basic station, datamap, and job structure. Every connector synchronization consists of three major components. The station, which determines where the values are exported to. The job, which determines which products are exported. And the datamap, which determines how they are exported. The datamap is the most complex one, of course, because of the value transformation before the export. But we always start by creating a first station. I will call it Shopware 6 template, why not? And then you have to choose the application Shopware 6, of course. What I should mention is that Shopware 5 and Shopware 6 is entirely different in the implementation, in the way it works, in the way you configure it. And the Shopware 5 connector is not compatible with the Shopware 6 connector, so don't expect to migrate from there to Shopware 6 that easily. That's in both ways. The Shopware 6 implementation is also completely new. There is no code shared between these two software versions. So then I can choose whether I want to create it without a datamap. I actually do want to create one. I will call it Shopware 6 template as well. And well, it's a development system in my case. I always like the color blue for Shopware, but that's just a personal preference because the Shopware logo is blue. And let's start with the station. The station, well, it's fairly simple. We just want to add the values of how it is exported, the URL, etc. So let's start by giving it a nice external key. Data sources can be ignored for now, and then the credentials. As I already said, I have my admin user. Let's add this one here. And for the URL, I will export to this one here, and which is very important. You have to add the suffix API. That means that we are really communicating with the API. And let's save it and test the connection. Yeah, that's really good. Okay. What we can also do right now is import the station values. So I will get to these later. They are pretty complex. But for now, let's just download the values from Shopware, like languages, currencies, etc. That's great. Let's refresh. And then they should be here. Nice. Okay, now to the datamap. For the datamap, I will be using an old template from the 1.13, but the cool thing is that you won't have to use that one. You will get an entire template of every configuration in this video. So an entire station template that you will be able to import here. So just use the import dialog and then you will see it here in all cloud templates. But that's still a work in progress. And so you can have the entire configuration of this video in your system then. But for now, I will import a template of Shopware 6, which I have prepared here. And yes, I want to fully import it. And this template is a bit old because there are a lot of new features for Shopware 6, so I will dust it off for a bit. Okay, the datamap is prepared. It is just a bit newer now, and we should see all these mapping tables here. Each of these mappings correspond to one of the node maps. So you can see here, there's a node map for products, this time in German, and it is represented by this one here. So you have containers for different types of products, and you can name these as you like, but these actions here, they are really important for later. But for now, we have a basic data map. It has everything we've got. I just decided I do not only want to export English in the language mapping here below, I also would like to export German and French, and I do not have French here, so I decided I should head into the settings and add these languages. They must be somewhere around here. Here they are. And I just want to also export French, for example. So it's here, and it inherits from English, why not? And the ISO code is French. France. Perfect. Now we should have another language here. let's import that really quick. So we head into the station. You can do so via the pipeline editor. And then let's just re-import. Oh, one new language was imported. Nice. It should also have its value automatically set. Nice. So FR is automatically set to French, but we'll get to the station values later. Nice. So we can head into the Datamap again. It's still yellow because I still have changes, but I can't see the language yet. I have to refresh once. And now there's not only German, but also French. Very nice, very nice. And also French here. That's really good. Okay. So much about the Datamap first. And one thing is missing, one core component, it's the jobs. And I do recommend for the first time, for the first few experts, just to use the job for categories, which I will also call it that. Yes, and it's categories, and it uses our Datamap. We just transfer categories here, not media. In my case, I just say no, do not load any additional objects, just export the categories. All right, and then we will create the product job as well, but we will re-edit them soon. These are just some templates. So products, here we are, and yes, I still need to choose the Datamap, and then here we are going to export products and media, but for now products is enough. But we still need a root node. We will get back to the jobs later. First, we have to decide what we export, which we do in the next step. Maintaining the category tree. The maintenance of the category tree is where the biggest difference between the Shopware 6 connector and other connectors lie. At first, we should just create a normal channel for an SC channel. They're so-called, not to be confused with CS channels, so the channel structure here. These are totally two different things. And the SC channels, they represent our store views in Shopware. So we have these store views here, and now we create one that represents this storefront. I would just go in here, edit, no, just into the list, and add one, how about calling it Shopware 6. Which is nice about this structure, it is a direct copy of the storefronts in Shopware. So if you want to communicate with different storefronts, you can just use the different channels and create new ones and maintain them differently. But that's for the products. The categories are maintained in quite a different manner. Normally, as when using other connectors, you would not only create the categories, say electronics, food, books, etc., but also drag and drop the products from here down into the category tree. But in the Shopware 6 connector, this is not necessary anymore and not even encouraged. The tree down here is now only the category tree. So only the categories themselves. They can also just be simple objects. They must not even be copies of their product. They must not even be pulled down here via drag and drop. They are just the category tree itself. Maybe you want to maintain the data there or not. It's not, it's just your choice. And the products themselves are added differently there, as we will have a look at when we are exporting them. For now, we will just export categories. And as you can see here, only the categories are here. Also, let's head into electronics. Here, TVs, for example. But as you can see, there are no products, just the categories themselves. So when wanting to export them, we have to add them as a root node, saying that you have maintained them now, just by adding, for example, here, create new child, etc. So we head back into our export. Very important, go into the station and go into data sources and set your category channel here. So I know that my category root will be this here. And then, yeah, the products are taken out of the demo. So I will just use it like that. And the rest is now perfectly fine. Now that I created my new channel, I should also go into the station values, where you can see the storefront here. So these are some of the station values, which will be handled in the next chapter. And the storefront here from Shopware shall be filled with my Shopware channel, Shopware 6, as you can see here, which I just created. Now, let's head into the data map and also clean this up, because now we know that our channel is this Shopware 6 one, so we head into the language mapping and set it here. For every language you can, as you can see, you can be very specific in the Shopware 6 connector. You can do many different things for different languages, for different store views, etc. But for now, we say if a product has this channel, it shall be exported into the storefront in every language. As simple as that. But there is potential for an indefinite amount of specific configurations. So now in the category transfer, we do now want to export the Paul shop. Great name. And the rest is totally fine. Let's check here, just a normal export. Just to clear a question, as you can see in the transfer, you can, as always, set the size of your packages and how often they should be sent, if sent with multiprocessing, and how big the packages should be. When it comes to package size, it really depends on your Shopware system, on how strong the server of it is. With the most systems, I like to go with 3 packages per process and 25 products per package, but this is really just some number. You can definitely go higher than that in case your server, your Shopware server and Contentserv server is strong enough for that. Our export here, for instance, will be so small that it's not really a real factor, but still we have it here. And now to the category export. We can now set it here as we already did. Nice. Okay. Then we are able to export the categories. But first we should maintain the station values and also configure the categories in the data map. Mapping the station values. The station values are a completely new component added exclusively to Shopware 6 at the moment. You can find them, as we already seen, in the station editor below the tab Shopware 6 values in our case. There are a lot of station value types. Just generally, they are a representation of Shopware 6 values. Not even a representation, the exact value in fact. Let's take languages per se. Let's say we want to send something below in the language Deutsch. Then we are not actually sending the value in the language Deutsch, we are sending it in the language C67397E, etc. We are actually sending the MD5 hash. These are the so-called UU IDs, the universally unique IDs. And we must communicate with Shopware via the system. But the nice thing is that you don't have to worry about these hashes or sending them or writing them down properly. You can just send the station value, and you know what to send by the representation. We also implemented the station value so you can convert Contentserv values to Shopware values in a not really in a literal sense. So let's say here we have, for example, the currency euro, and we maintain SC prices, for example, in the SC price table. And this price has the currency euro, for example. Then we want to convert our euro into this euro, which is, well, yet again, B70, etc., etc. So what you will see in the export, you will see, oh nice, I'm sending euro, but in fact the connector will send these hashes. So these are just a representation, which makes the Shopware 6 connector at least human readable. Because sending these hashes would be quite confusing all the time. Just so you know. And that's where the station values come into play, especially if you have more than one station. Then these hashes, these UUIDs, are different per system. That means you're, for example, when you're sending English, you're sending 2FBB to the current system, but another might have FGF, whatever. So these can also differ, but they are actively converted during the runtime. This is why you can add these source values to say, for example, if my product has a certain class, then you can set class here, Contentserv class, and say, yeah, if my product has the class product, for example, then it should send itself with a standard rate, and if it's a book or something, with a reduced rate, for example. So that's just how it works. These can be very, very fine-tuned, but that's really not necessary for normal exports. We just have it in here if it is. Let's take, for example, something more complex. Let's go into the property groups. We will get to them later in more detail, but for now, if we want to send something as color, for example, and we do not really know, okay, and then we can select an attribute here and say, hey, 406 is color, if I remember correctly. No, that's size 446. Let's say 446 is the color in our station value. That means that we are actively converting this attribute as a flag for color. But we will, that was just an example. In fact, the station values are then exported in two ways. You have two plugins concerning them. One plugin is called Send Fixed Station Value, where you can just directly select one. As you can see here, you just say, hey, I want to export a language and this one. And the other possibility is convert to station value, where, well, a source value is converted. That's where the most important thing comes into play. And let's say you put euro in here, then it is converted via the station value mapping. Okay, so I hope you got a basic gist of how the station values work. Exporting the categories. To export the categories, we must first configure their values in the datamap. So let's head in there. And as already explained, we have the map for creating categories. So we head into the mapping table and look it up. Here it is. And okay, so we just check these values real quick. We have the normal PDM article structure ID. That's the ID of the CS channel. So if of this channel here, and in my case it's 2920, and it shall be generated as a uniquely ID. Here's the thing, every object in Shopware needs to have its own unique ID, as we already talked about in the station values, and that's not only for the Shopware values, also for every object that we create. But that's no problem. We have this plugin here which does everything for us. It's the generate unique ID plugin, and with the object type category it generates it for us. And that's the thing about the template, and that's so convenient. In most things you just have to fill in the source values. For example, here in description the source value is empty, and then you just have to fill it with what you need there. And in case of these you do not need to touch any of them. The parent ID is of course, so the category knows which its parent was, so it must send its parent ID. This is also automatically handled by the template here, even with a bit of documentation. The name should be the label, that's also fine. And the CMS page ID, that's a special one. I will just add PDM article ID here. No, PDM article structure ID, in fact. So that's just a habit of mine. Every time I leave a field empty, I just fill it with the ID, because it is never too bad to have at least a value there, even if it's not necessary. The CMS page ID is the styling of the category. They can be quite complexly maintained here, and I do not want to delve too deep into this topic. Let's just say we want to send a category layout, a fixed one, a fixed station value, and I want to send a category layout and just the default category layout. So you can style the category pages entirely different, and then you can also create a logic for the connector where it decides, oh, it's this category, it shall be styled like so and so. But for now, I just say send the default, it's fine. And as we already said, we do not have category media, we decided, so we leave that one out for now. Let's save that. So about exporting, there are many ways to export. For example, you already saw the play buttons here, and there's the development editor, which is very useful for smaller exports. But because the categories are so many, or at least some, there are about 50, I guess, I do not want to use the development editor because it's too huge. I just click on the station here once to get into this nice overview, which very experienced users of the connector already know. And I want to start the job externally from here. In the debug mode means that more log entries are written. The normal mode just writes the most essential log entries. So if we want to see results as much as possible, always use this debug mode. Okay, so the categories were sent. Here are a lot of stuff. Objects are loaded, the processes are started. They are then formatted based on their Contentserv values. Blah, blah, blah. That's normal stuff. And then we get to the transfer. One thing you will always see in the logging of the connector, you will always see a kind of sending log entry, always send 25 categories, send 25 products, stuff like that. And you will always see the response. Luckily for me here, as expected, there are no errors, nothing is missing, and Shopware is relatively satisfied with the values I sent. Quite a nice new thing, which I want to show you here. Freshly added in the 1.14.2 is a new huge update, which I really recommend you to get. Well, it's always free. And the new update shows you not only the hashes you sent. For example, we started with the Paul shop and then electronics. Don't worry, the sorting of the category, how they are sorted in Shopware, is handled automatically by the connector. You do not have to think about that. how the categories are maintained, let's look them up here in Shopware. Ah, nice, here they are. How they are, which sort order they have is directly taken out of Contentserv. So as you can see here we have electronics, food, books, sports, and here we have electronics, food, books, sports, etc. So they are here. What I will do now real quick is say that the storefront has a new point of main navigation. It has my beloved category now, because this is the new one that should be used. So back to the export, and which is really great. You can see here always what is sent. For example, electronics sent itself here. Hey, I'm electronics and my father is the Paul shop. And now you can see these converted values. Earlier you just had to make them out by their ID, which was a lot harder, one must admit. And for example, as you can see here, food says, hey, my after category ID, so the category that came before me, is electronics. So I want to be placed after electronics. Quite nice, but it is really nice to know which things are which hash is which. I love that stuff. So yeah, we just created our first category tree, and it's really as simple as that. But it gets more complex if we are exporting products. Exporting products. Okay, let's get to the good stuff now. I'm talking about exporting products. I already have a prime example here, my beloved TV, the Nano Crystal. And we will be exporting this one with some nice images, etc. And using this as a first example for a simple product, but we will move later on to a variant product because these are a bit more complex even. But let's start by this one. To export a product, we do not have to drag and drop it down into the category tree, as already discussed. We have to connect it to a category. We have to say that, hey, with this category, please export the this product. So we go into our connector overview, like this one here, and open our channel management. And we already created a new SC channel, and we have to say, hey, with this, please, with this product, please go into the category. So I say here, Shopware 6, you shall be exported in the category electronics, TVs, smart LED. So now it is connected with this storefront, which I just called Shopware 6, actively to the category. Of course, you can also use multi-categories. If a product, for example, shall appear in replacement parts and also in the normal product overview. That's just an example. So now it is connected. You can also see that with a CS type of ours. So if I head here and do smart LED TV, then into the CS type, yeah, it's here. The monitor for products linked to this channel via SC channel. So that's just a cool monitor which shows you, hey, these two products are linked to this category via SC channel. It's just a monitor, and it's an attribute exclusively for the channels, not for the products, of course, because only products can be mapped to channels. And it just shows you, okay, if I export this category here, it will export these two products with it. So let's head into our jobs and open the product job via the SC navigator here. That's very convenient. Yeah, of course, we have to set it as a root ID. We say, I want to export the entire shop, or I say, I want to export the TVs categories, but I do want to export products, not media at the moment. We will cover that in the next step. And I say, hey, reload the PIM objects via the SC channel assignment, because they are assigned there. And as you can see here, a new field appeared. That field is especially useful for filtering further down. What happens here? The IDs of all the categories and their products are loaded, just a normal export. And I can set an additional filter here for these loaded products. That's very convenient. So I say, I just want to export this TV. So all the IDs that are found here are again filtered now to this product. This is a product root node now from the product tree. And that's a prime example of a small export. Why is it like that? Why do I have to maintain these SC channels? I just want to explain that real quick. The main advantage of this is that the product is only maintained at one central position. Normally, when always copying these products down in the tree permanently, doing drag and drop here, and do one copy after another, it always leads to errors because you have so many duplicates of products, and then per se the one channel product has some small difference and that causes an error, and it takes hours to find. And it's just so neat that now you only have the one single product and maintain all changes in this one, and no duplicates, no further channels, etc. That's just really, in my opinion, it is more transparent than it was before. And on top of that, the channels here, they show you, oh, these are exported into these channels, for example, on the English website here, etc. And in our case, exported into this Shopware system. Maybe you have more storefronts later, and then you see, hey, oh, this product is not in this store, but it is in that one. Okay, so I like this new system, and it will be the system that every future connector will use. Okay, so this time we have a small export, so I would recommend you to use the development editor. The development editor is like the debug mode of a job, but even more detailed, and shows you really everything that's going on with big data. Okay, so we got an error right here. One format plugin is empty. Probably I forgot to save some. Yeah, so here we are in the product export. We just will use the most basic fields first. So I say, let's go with these ones and say our product number is, in my case, normally you have a product number already maintained, of course, but in my case it's just the Contentserv ID, and I will make it look cool with format strings and add a nice prefix. So you can see, hey, it's an SKU. It's a product number, just so it looks cool. The label, that should be fine. And then the tax ID, that's one I want to show you. Let's say here we disable these rows first. Okay. Okay, so what we have here is a very, very simple export, an ID, a product number, and the name. And if we send that to Shopware, a lot of errors appear. And I just wanted to show you how this is handled. So the product is sent to Shopware, obviously with not enough information because the price is missing, etc. And then we get responses. For example, hey, in your first product, the field tax ID is missing. As you can see here, it is the Shopware system is annoyed about the tax ID. And another example is, well, the price is missing as well, and what's the third one? The stock is missing too. So these basic values here, the Shopware system always wants to have that. A really cool neat change is if the main product, if the default language with these errors has an error response like that, then the translations are not even sent, because it's, well, pointless to send translations for a product that already has errors, because they wouldn't work either. So let's see here. It says that we have to send a text. So let's drag that a bit more back again. We want to send a text ID. Again, I just fill this here with some arbitrary value and send a fixed text. We are sending here the text rates and the standard rate. Save this. Nice. Again, it was complaining about the price, so I just sent a dummy price, like yeah, like this one. I doubt that anyone would buy a TV for this price, so that should be fine. So we have with the currency euro, yeah, that looks good. Let's see here. And also let's send a basic stock. I would just here use the send configure parameter value and say, yeah, this TV exists 1,000 times. You will most probably have an attribute for that or another kind of calculation. Then let's see if it's still annoyed. Okay, that looks way better. Okay, job finished without errors. The Shopware system is satisfied with the data. Let's see if it also was created. Yes, there it is, our very first product with very simple information. And I just want to now export a bit of example information. Let's say we want to send the description. Okay, and also the active state. The active state says whether a product should appear, should be visible. And so we just say, yes, this one is visible with a 1. Okay, the manufacturer is a cool thing. I just want to send a fixed manufacturer for this instance. You could often make out, for example, here we have the manufacturer, and you can often make out which corresponding field this is in Shopware. For example, the manufacturer can be found here. So we will send that one. We just say, hey, a fixed station value, send SAWS, because we make TVs all of a sudden. Okay, so price, stock, let's try it with these values, if it's fine with them. And that's where the pipeline editor really shines, to just switch these tabs so fluently. It was freshly sent with the new values. The manufacturer here again is a beautiful hash, and the tax ID. Let's see here. We can refresh this one. I have some, wait a second. So the manufacturer is set to SAWS. The description is also filled. That's good. Okay, just a nice trick that I got to use over the last years. You can just take the ID of the product here, copy it out, and then you can add it into this product URL to find your product easily. So you can click on any product, just replace the ID here, and then find the product you want to look at right now. That's quite convenient if you have about 100,000 products, then you can find them really quick instead of using the search. Okay, so that's also good. And now to the visibilities. There are some more very important settings. These are the visibilities and which channels should be visible. That's really easy because we already maintained that with our SC channels, you know, because they are directly corresponding. So all we have to do to fill this is to activate this row from the template, which already reads our SC channels for the visibilities, so that's great. And the categories as well, because we already set them too in the SC channels, so we can also just set PDMartic ID here. Just deactivate that. Oh no, why not? And as you can see here, it also loads the categories from the SC channels. And yes, there are multi-categories as I already said. So let's save this one. Export it. Okay, now the visibilities and the categories appear. So it says, hey, I'm visible in the channel Shopware 6 and my category is the Smart LED TV. Let's check that here, refresh this. Nice, the storefront is set and the category is set. So as you can see, many things are entirely handled by the template and you only have to fill in the last few values. Also, I want to check if the active state worked. Active was sent as 1. And 1 second. Yeah, it is active. Very nice, very nice. Okay. So we just exported a product. Next up, I want to upload some images to it. Uploading media and connecting it to a product. Now to the media export. When exporting media, it consists of two major parts. For once, the upload of the media to Shopware to create the media objects, and then the connection between a product and the media object, the relation, so to speak. So we start by uploading a media object. So we head into our product job and select that we want to transfer media. I just like to put that first because it always works, but just it looks cooler if the media is uploaded before the product, which makes sense because then you couldn't connect it. And then we head into the Datamap, and this time into the media Datamap, which is the third one. No, yes, the third one, if I remember correctly. And here we are at the media upload. Another nice thing about the template is that the media is uploaded just with the rows that are already configured in the template, so you don't have to worry about it. But we will expand them for a bit. First, let's select the attributes. I have the attribute 28 for the main image and the attribute 181. And about these, this is the mapping for the media upload, and the target keys can be anything you like. As long as these loop plugins here create the nice looking and good looking media objects, it is totally fine. So you can create any row with any name, call it the bottom view image, etc. That's no problem. You can call them as you like. It's just a sort of documentation in this mapping. And we do not upload category images for now, so I will deactivate that. Another nice thing is that we can already upload media into a folder. We can do so by looking the folder up in Shopware, head into the media. And I want to upload it into product media. That means I do copy out this MD5 hash here and add it into the media folder. So all you have to do is head into the media upload. This huge array here is already the field called optional field, but we will use it for something else. It's the media folder ID written in this lower camel case. Don't worry, it will be in your template. And then you have to add the media folder with its ID here. We are planning to support these IDs too in the station values. So if you're in a newer version like the 1.15, you can, for example, just see if you can already download it as a station value, then you could use send fixed station value instead of send configurable parameter value. Otherwise, the media is just a normal connection with the ID, etc., and the URL from which the Shopware system downloads the media from. So, to be quite exact, technically speaking, the URL, actually we do not upload media, it is downloaded by Shopware, but we still call it upload because it's, well, as you think of it. And the change date is pretty important or pretty nice, because the media upload is incrementally. That means that only media that has changed is uploaded anew. That's very good for performance, because media upload can often take some time, especially if it's huge media. So of course you can just say, okay, the change date is newer than the last uploaded one, so it has to upload it anew because it's a new image or it's changed or anything like that. You can also export an image via a preset. Let's just do this. Doing so, I will say, hey, give me the preset file name and preset URL, and then the rest can stay. We wouldn't need it, but it's fine. To have a bit more than you need to is not too bad. And I say I want to export it with standard, or yeah, the standard office export, why not? And what we have to do then is to send the preset URL instead of the normal one. And here just the normal CS formatted value and the preset file name, because in case the preset changes the file type, for example to a PNG, you can then use the preset file name, so the right file name is given to it. So I will head into the loop head, copy it with our new copy and paste feature, and just edit everywhere else. So here, and also here, even though this row is right now deactivated. So just have the same configuration everywhere. And that should be about it for the media upload. Let's just test it. So we are still exporting the TV. What I should do, I do not have the best images in my TV, not these nice cat images, so I should maybe get some more fitting ones. Just a second. Yeah, these look way better. So let's start the upload again. And let's see. Because we already uploaded some of the media object, this log entry appears. This will appear very often in your exports. The upload of the following media files was skipped because they have not changed since the last upload. So that's the incremental export, which I spoke of. And the other ones, TVs here, are uploaded. So let's look them up in Shopware by refreshing the folder. And here they are. Here are some TV pictures. Okay, but as you can see, they are not yet in our product because they are not connected to our product. They are already in Shopware, which is great, but they still have to be connected. And we do so by heading into the product map, where our TV is exported, and then add also these attributes, so my 28 and the additional images here. And just like that, we send the main image as the cover. And with this configuration, you will also have that in the template, so don't worry. And the media is for all additional media, like the other attribute. If you have more attributes, you can always add them and just create new rows in the media upload with this loop head, and then create a new row here with also media, and use the loop head from this export. This will be a normal export. Of course, you need to have a bit of connector knowledge if you want to export more complex media. For example, if you say, hey, if it's a GIF file, it should not be exported via a preset, etc., etc. Or if it's a, it shall be exported from the parent elements. For example, the parent product should export some images, and the other images should originate from the product exported right now. So, of course, then you can build far more complex exports. But for now, the nice thing is that the template has everything you need. So the template should already perfectly export our images. So let's save this again and see. Okay, so it is exporting the cover here, it is connecting the TV cool, and then it is connecting the rest of the media. Let's see if this also worked in Shopware. Yes, we already see the cover, and if we scroll down here, we see the rest. There's the main image and the additional images. That looks great, but still I'm not satisfied because I want that to be ordered in or sorted in the right manner. I want it to be sorted in the way it is sent in my example. So what I will do here, I add a new row that's called position, and for the main one I will just send it as 0. So the cover should send itself at 0 in the position. It is the first image always. Also, Shopware 6 is very type secure when it comes to data types in the programming, like integer, etc. So I will cast a data type just to be sure and say this one is an integer, a number from a programming standpoint. And the other media should also send itself. And this one, I have a trick up my sleeves here. It can send its position based on the loop. So it's looping over. It is looping over all the images, and then it should just use the loop counter. So here, loop run counter with the CS formatted value, and that means that it just counts the way as often as it loops through the images. It gets more complex with the position, of course, if you use more media, more MUM attributes. But never forget, we have a nice plugin that can ease your configuration. For example, if you say that you have a lot of attributes that shall all be exported in the same manner, you can use our merge reference values plugin. This plugin allows you to merge reference attributes like my 28 with my 181. That means you can export multiple references from a product as it is one. Just as one, it is treated by the connector like all the references are set in one reference attribute. Just a reminder, that's pretty useful. But for now, the position should work. Okay, so about the export, as I should still have to start it. Yeah, so the position is here with the cover starting at position 0, and then position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That looks really great. We also have the job finished without errors. I like to read that. So let's refresh the product. And let's see. Yeah, that looks way better. Now it is sorted nicely, just the way I like it. Okay, so we connected the media to our product. Exporting variants. Okay, so now we get to the juicy stuff, because we are exporting variant products. Variant products are mainly the reason why this video exists, because it gets quite complex from here, but don't worry, bear with me. We will go every step along the way. I will explain what I'm doing and how it works. So we have variants. For example, I have a beautiful example product here. It's my Velde poncho. It's just a normal poncho with a color variant layer and a size variant layer. So the variant properties are the size and the color. So first I create these properties in Shopware. We already have color here, which is great. It's probably from the Shopware template, but I add another one called size. It's also just a text property. Very important, you do not need to create the property values for the connector, just the property itself. And yes, there are plans to even automate this process, so you don't have to create these properties anymore. But for now, you have to. So let's head into the station and download the new property. I had it here by double-clicking the station name, because as in Contentserv, double-clicking something will lead you into the editor. So let's see. We want to download the new one. One new property group was imported and one new variant property group. As you can see, these are the same. So if you add a property, it is added in the property groups here and the variant property groups. And we decided to split that up so you can maintain them differently. That is very important later, especially when we are exporting the properties themselves in the next chapter. But for now, you just have to know that you need to differentiate those. So we do not add something here, we leave that empty, because we do only want to use color and size as our variant properties. So we need to add give the source attribute. Now the source attribute from Contentserv for this property in Shopware. For once we are mapping right now the color, and if I remember correctly, it was 446. Yes, that's the color in my system. And the size was 406. So yeah, that looks great. For now, we have said that these two attributes will be our variant attributes for these two properties. So before we can export any of these, we need to maintain our variant product. Something many of you might already know. First, you need to add the variants as complex articles. The SC complex article table is a component of the SAWS which has all the variants in it. It is especially useful, and it is made for maintaining variants to a variant head. I will refer to this element here, to the poncho itself, as the variant head, and to these leaf elements, leaf at the end of a tree, I will refer to them as the variants, so you know what I'm talking about. So we want to add those variants. Luckily we have a convenience feature. We will open these, then filter out the folders. No folders please. And here we have all the variants, and we will use the mass editing here, the complex product mass editing, and say, hey, these belong to this poncho. We have an autocomplete here. Yes, we have it. So this is our head, and it shall be added. Also a neat thing, there's also the SC channel mass edit if you want to add many products to a category, for example. But you can also do so by using the Excel import, etc. Oh, why not? I will show it real quick. Because you can manage your SC channels again to map products to a category, and you can also do so by using the Excel import here. So going to import CSV or Excel file. But one thing you should keep in mind, only the variant head needs to be mapped to a category, and especially not the variants. So do not add those explicitly. They shall not have any SC channel entries. Very important. So as you can see here, only my head has an SC channel entry, so it is mapped to the category poncho, but with the wrong channel, with Shopware 6. I want to have this one here. And so this will be exported with poncho. You can also see now the complex articles that I added for the variants. And then another thing is missing. If you're wondering, I don't see all these tables, and especially not this SAWSConnector tab here, don't worry, the attributes are installed with the connector. They are here. You can add them to any classes you like. They are just like normal attributes. And also in that way that these are just normal CS types. So you can also copy these attributes, create new attributes any way you like. You do not have to use these explicitly, but they are just a typical template. Like I would recommend this monitor, and every of those usage attributes. Let's see if in English, that's just the German name. And one thing is very important, the Shopware variant attributes. These are not only an attribute reference, these are a CS type that we developed. It's the variant preview table based on building attributes. Long name, but very useful. So it's a multi-attribute select that are already mapped to the class. I don't want to bore you with the details. And then we have it here, the Shopware variant attributes. These are the attributes of which the variants are built of. Because you can also, let's say, you have it here in the station values, but you do not always want those. Let's say another product only has color variants, for example. So you still have to map the variant attributes for each product. You can also use inheritance, of course. If you say, hey, no, that's too much, I do not want to maintain it for everyone. If you, for example, know that all ponchos have color and size, then you of course can use inheritance. I would even encourage you to do so. And yeah, so let's map the two attributes here to say, hey, my poncho will export these two as variant attributes. Still, it's the 406 and the 446. Nice, it's already here. Let's check this in, and then something new will appear. This here. This is the variant mapping table, why the CS type is called so different. This shows us if our variants are configured correctly and if they are unique and can be exported in a good manner. So, as we can see here, it is all happy. It has a nice green checkbox icon, and it is fine with our configuration because every size variant is different and every color variant is unique. So these look very well. Okay, so now we should be able to export it. So let's head into the Datamap. Here we are, here are the variants. These are in the main product map, and then there's the variant map. These are two different things. At first we have to say at the main product we want to export variants with this one. So we head in here, we have the variant creating attribute. Weren't they called Shopware 6? No. Variant. Shopware variant attributes. Here they are. Once again, you can use any attribute you like. And let's save that. Now to the property transmission. These were much more complex in earlier states of the Shopware 6 connector. Now it exports them very much automatically. All you have to do is create this very row here. So let's head in there. We want to create a property. This is the default format for every property. So yeah, that's just a normal export. And there is also the possibility to use multi properties. I will show them in the next chapter when I'm talking about properties themselves. But for now, I just show you that you have to save it as a property. It has an automatic ID modifier, just leave it as this is. Don't think about it too much, and then we have a pretty good export here. And what happens here is pretty much described with all these texts. Every property of this plugin here is loaded via the station values and then exported based on the station values. And they are all exported via this format here. But if you want to, let's say if you want to create exceptions, say that a specific property is formatted in a different manner, you can just say, hey, this here is an exception with also create property options, but maybe some different configuration. This is the new property mode. Wait, create a property option. Where it is all loaded automatically. In earlier states of the Shopware 6 connector, every property needed to be mapped in a mapping, but that is not necessary anymore. One thing, if you are using an older Shopware system, you can always use the new property mode by changing it here. But attention, most of your configurations will be lost in the process. So you will change to the new property mode. That is really great, but if you already have a running export, you might not want to do it right now, just if you want to migrate it. We can also send a main variant. That's a neat thing. Based on many values, we could, for example, use the isDefault from our SC complex article table. So what I mean by that is this one here, because in the table we can set isDefault here. We can use this if you want to maintain it, then you just have to set it. You can also say that the first variant that is received shall be the main variant. For example, here my red poncho. That's pretty easy because the first product sending is main equals 1 will be used as the main variant. So then all you have to do is use fixed configurable value and send 1. That says, okay, your first in the tree will be the main variant. So let's do this. Okay. So now the variants should be loaded, but we are not ready configuring the variants because I want to do that here, the variant map. These two rows are just as simple as that. You could leave them be. The product number, I want to format them in the cool manner I used here. So I copy that one and paste it here in format strings. You can only copy if the format plugin is the same, as I said in the release spotlight. Nice, and now we have this beautiful number. The name should be the label, I'm fine with that. And the stock entry can also just be 1,000 or so. What do I use up here? Yeah, 1,000. Then let's use it on here as well. 1,000. Okay, something more exciting is the cover, because everything that you're exporting at the main product, this map is not only used for variant products, but also for simple products, so products that do not have variants, like the TV we exported before here. And it is also used for the variant heads. and this map down here is used for the variants only. And if you want to have something specifically changed, for example, the description shall not be inherited by the variant head, but instead shall be different in the variant mapping, you can just add the row here. What many of my partners do, they always configure different properties for the variants. So they copy the property row down here and configure it differently. Just so you know, if you want something specifically different for a variant, then you have to explicitly, well, configure it in the variant map. We're planning to streamline this process too. There are many features planned. So, as I always say, you can subscribe to our newsletter about that. So, that's fine. And let's say we want to use a different cover for our variants, because we have a blue one, so a blue poncho, a red poncho, etc. So we use the different cover, and as we have it here, we can connect this one. Yeah, that's great. I like this. And this configuration should already be as we need it to be. So let's save this. Of course, you can also add additional media for variants if they have more than one. If you have, for example, 3 pictures of your blue poncho, then you must still add media here. And as I mentioned before, you can use nearly every row that is in the normal product mapping down in the variant mapping as well to override the variant changes. I will show that real quick. So let's export our poncho. So we have to change the root nodes. First, I want to go with the poncho category. Yeah, let's just use the entire shop. If your shop is too huge, do not do this. Just in my case, I do know that it's not too huge, so I will filter it just down on the poncho. It's this one. No, that's not it. It's this one here. And let's save it. And let's see. Okay. So this is a lot different. First, our object is loaded, our normal poncho, and then it is starting to export itself. And once it reaches the variant row in our data map, this one here, it reloads these 20 products. Because these are the variants that it reloads into the export. Don't worry too much about it. So this is the reason why we see so many objects here, because all of these variants are now exported in our export via the variant map. So as you can see here, the mapping looks quite different and is a lot shorter. It ends here after stock. This one is not even sending a cover, which is kind of alarming. But it is uploaded a lot here. Another thing, and now an error message appears, but that's a good one because this one says the main variant of the product blah 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 was removed. Please send it again as soon as the selected variant is existent in Shopware. And what is meant by that? To connect the main variant ID in a product, in a variant product, the product must exist first. That's sadly a limitation in Shopware 6, that to choose the main variant in a product, here it is, our new poncho, to choose the main variant, it needs to be existent already. So we have to send it twice. That's only for the creation. I'm sorry about that. I wanted to implement it better, but it is right now the limitation of Shopware 6, which I can't just change. Okay, so we see our variants here, but they don't look too great. There are a lot of cats, but no different colors. For example, blue does not have the blue color. and the main variant is not set as well. It should be set in here. So we have to fix that. The cover was not sent, even though it is here. It is set to override. These are the modes. If it already exists, it should be overwritten. Maybe I have to add a source field here, because otherwise it is not passed. So I add my attribute here, give it further here, and that was probably the issue. So let's run that again. And also all of the variant media was uploaded right now. Okay. Just, we already finished. That was too quick. Let's see. Update this one. Variants. Oh, and they look way better now. Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Especially the orange ones. I like those. So now we have our variants, and we should have the variant selector in the front end, which I will show at the end of the video. And that looks really good. And as you can see, before the images were inherited by the children. With this here, this is the inheritance sign. We can also go into one variant of its own. As you can see here, there is the inheritance, and that's the reason why they had the same images as the variant had, but now that they overwrote it, they do not have the inheritance anymore. So everything that is left empty by a variant, for example, we didn't send any categories, so the ones from the variant head were used, as well as the visibilities. You can even set some variants inactive and other ones active, but I do not want to go too much into detail about that. Okay, so we exported variants with their variant properties. You should also could go into the properties and then see here in size, for example, there are now property values. Just one last thing before we move on. Variant products are a huge deal in the Shopware connector and in Shopware in general. They are, as you can see here, we are sending 21 products at a time. Just with my small poncho here, they can be far more than that. For example, about 360 variants, because you have to remember that every variant is the product multiplied out. So by each property, we have the color property and the size property. So they multiply themselves out to 21 variants, which is huge in my case. But for, let's say you have about 8 variant properties, so the customer should choose in the front end between 8 different properties. That means that they would multiply out into crazy numbers. So always really choose what variant attributes you want to use, because that can very fast get pretty huge into huge variant products. We are trying to implement a way to export these variant products better, but right now it is a Shopware limitation that you must send the entire variant product as one. So let's say we have 360 variants, and then they are all sent in one huge package, so huge that it might even it might even be too huge for Shopware to accept it. So there are a lot of technical limitations right now that we want to overcome, but it's not too easy. If your export needs too much time, you can always tweak the performance a little. You can set the timeout to a bigger number, not only here, but also on the Shopware target system. Very important, because this one has a timeout too. And you can also raise the maximum execution time. So PHP, the programming behind Contentserv and Shopware has a maximum execution time. This is probably set to about an hour or so, and you can then raise it so really these gigantic products can be added into Shopware. But let's just hope that you do not have too many variants, then you won't need to bother with this. You can also adjust the indexing behavior. That's a more of an experimental feature of mine. You can say that when a package is sent, it shall not index anything. Because the indexing is the rebuilding of the product constellation, and that is executed very often, and you can deactivate it. It's much faster, but only meddle with this if you know what you are doing. I just added this feature for you to try out in case you have really big exports. Exporting product properties. Since we already configured properties for our variants, this one will be really easy. So all we have to do is say we want to export a property into our TV here. These are here then. Of course, you can also export properties into variants. So we have variants in this product, and every variant can have its different properties. So just to be clear, there are some properties that will be built with that will be used to build the variants, and others can just be used to display at variants. So that's no problem at all. These are two different things. So let's just create a property for ourselves, add into here, and let's say we have the sales state. Yeah, that's all we need to do. Once again, you do not need to add values here. They will be added by the connector. And one very important thing, there are two major components that you can use to build attributes at your product. So one thing is the property, and the other are custom fields. Yes, they are back. They are already known by users of Shopware 5. And you can't explain properties without explaining custom fields, in my opinion. Properties are filterable attributes mapped at a product. They are mostly used to search this product. So they are often searchable properties, like as you can see here, display and product filters. So if you head into a category page, you can select the properties which you want the product to filter for. And then there are the custom fields. The custom fields are direct values that you can set to products, but also every object type. Remember that, as you can see here, they must not only be used for products, they can also be used for almost any kind of Shopware record. And these are simple text values. So you have first your custom field group, and then the custom fields themselves. Here are just some examples by the Shopware template. And these are direct text fields that cannot be filtered for so easily. They are mostly used to present your product in an awesome way in your shop. So they can be used for additional texts, because you have many great values already in Shopware, like for example the description, manufacturer, product number, etc. And you should always use them as good as you can, but there are often values that you want to present that are not default fields in Shopware, so you add them as custom fields. And the custom fields, so they are mostly used for the presentation of the product and not really for the filtering. And, which is also very important, they are not, they are far more performant than the properties themselves. They do not need to eat as much performance when in the export, and also when building the products. So As good as you can, try to keep it into the custom fields and use only properties if you really intend them to be filterable. Like, let's say, the property for the target demographic. Let's say you want to export this product for men or for children, etc. And then you can use properties so they can be filtered, or custom fields if it shall only be displayed in the product and not be filterable. Also, the custom fields are very useful to use as technical flags. For example, if some product should look different somehow, you can add a flag attribute that is filled by the connector, so it is styled differently in the shop. And many possibilities. Just so you know, there are these two components. But right now we want to export properties. We already created one, so I will import it in the station. One new property group was imported. This time we won't use it as a variant property group, so we leave this one closed and open this one and say the sales state is also the sales state attribute in Contentserv. This time I do not know the ID, so just search it here. Yeah, the sales state. Here we have it. Then again we head into our product. This time not the poncho, the TV again. And maintain another attribute reference. You can use them as you like. Let me just go here. And here we have it, the Shopware 6 properties. This time it's just an attribute reference, nothing special, not a special CS type, etc. like for the variants, for instance. And let's see here. Yeah, that looks great. And you can use inheritance. So if you don't want to map the entire properties for every product each, let's say for my TV here, I want to export the property. Where did it go? Where was it? Yeah, here it is. The property sales state. But I do not want to map it for each separately. Once again, like with the variant properties, you can be very specific which product has which property. So you can say, hey, yeah, of course, material is a property, but I do not use that. I want only to see sales state for this product. But if you are as lazy as I am, you can just use the inheritance. And for the properties, I do really recommend you to do so. So here you can map them in the parent, so they are inherited down to the product. And just map every property here that is used by your product. And if it's empty anyway or not mapped in your class, then it will not be exported. But rest assured, just be cautious. If a property, for example, my product has material and sales state, then of course it will also be exported if it's inherited. But in my case, it shall only have sales state. So I map that here. Then let's go into the Datamap. Right click here we are, and go into this property row. I will just collapse that. Nice. So we have our property attribute, Shopware 6 properties. I want to use this one, I guess. Let's double check that. This one has the ID 685. Okay. And save this. And add it here. Okay. So once again, these are mapped like in the variants with this automatic mapping. I already explained that. And one mapping that rules them all. And this one here, we will just save that. Here we want to create a property. just follow my steps along and then you will be fine. Okay, that should already be enough. We set the right attribute, so all we have to do now is change the root node again to my favorite TV and export it. Let's open the log again. I want to see if I get any errors. Here, cover, media, okay, here's the product. I did not see any properties yet, so they're probably missing here. Yeah, they are. So let's double check that. We got the station value maintained with the sales state. Maybe it is empty. I should check that. Sales state, where is it? I mapped it. Previous master. Let's just look it up. It is the ID 551. Maybe I left it empty by accident. 551. Sales state, it is in specifications. Okay. Specifications. Yes, I left it empty. So let's set some value here. Let's say it's a winter sale, because you know people are watching TV in winter. I might think that they do that all around the year, but I'm not too sure. Okay, this time the properties were sent. As you can see here, a hash was sent with the value winter sale and the name winter sale. Here's something strange. That's not exactly the name. It's a bit more strange. What I mean by that is the name of the property value is the exact value. So if we head into our product here and refresh it, we can see the value is set to winter sale, but quite in fact, this one here is a value object, and this value object has the name winter sale. So to be quite exact, the not a value is set here, only a relation is created to the property value object. Yeah, so but still the value is here, the property worked perfectly fine. I just got a bit technical there. Exporting product custom fields. Okay, now to the custom fields. After we successfully synchronized a property, that one is next. Okay, so as I already said, the difference between, if you just skipped here to this part in the video, every difference between properties and custom field is already explained in the previous chapter. So please head there if you want to have the basics. I will just synchronize a custom field now. And what's so nice about them, they are really simple. I love it. It's just really, really great. So we will add a custom field to industrial, maybe, why not, and call it, it's a text field, and we call it, yeah, the schnitzel consistency. That's a very important stat. And as you can see here, the technical name can be entered, and I just say it's the industrial schnitzel, why not? Okay. And this technical name is very important. You should already copy that when creating it. Okay, so we have it here, and then we head into the export and the datamap and add a new row. This will also be in the template then, the row custom fields with just the label, just to fill it in, and array. Create an array, and this is all you need for every custom field. Of course, if you want specific custom fields that only variants should have, you must create another custom fields row down here, but we don't have that right now. So we just add it here. In create an array, we add the technical key and then the attribute which we want to fill it with, for example, whatever, an image, you know, or description. And if you have some more custom fields, you just add them like in a normal data map, just that it's in the smaller one, and you just add it and write the technical key again. So that's really cool. And yeah, why not? No, we just send as the schnitzel consistency some value here. It's really chewy and stuff. Chewy, yeah, like in Star Wars. Okay. So let's see if it gets exported nicely. So down here we should have custom fields, and yes, it is sent in all languages. And let's have a look at the product. Specification, is it here? Yeah, and then custom fields, industrial. Oh no, right now the schnitzel consistency is still empty. Oh, I just forgot to refresh. Okay, but still I want to show it to you. So first things first, the schnitzel consistency worked perfectly fine. I just forgot to refresh the product, and so the text is here. Well, as I said, custom fields are really simple. You just send them with their technical key, and then don't forget to refresh the product if you want to see the result. Okay. Exporting cross-settings. I was also asked to explain how to send cross-settings, so why not? Let's do this. I have my TV here, you already know that one, and I want to link these other products as cross-selling, as a form of accessories, you know, like 3D glasses, etc. And the cross-selling field in the product itself is back here, and now we do not have any relation yet, but we want that to change. And how it's maintained in the product tree. We have our TV here with relations, and yeah, the similar products are lemon cake, that's normal. But the accessories are here maintained as a PIM reference, and I think that most of you have also maintained it like this. Otherwise it would get a bit more complex. If, for example, you have it as a table, but now we map it for a PIM reference. So we head into the Datamap. Wait, what's the ID of accessories? It's 30. Then let's use this. And go into the cross-sellings. We have a 30 here. But the attribute here is actually not that important. Maybe I should just leave that as the ID, if I remember correctly, because the core of the cross-selling is actually here. Yeah. So we don't need it outside of this core, because we have a cross-selling relation here. So about cross-sellings, there are two types of cross-sellings. Here the plugin, a cross-selling via a product group or a cross-selling from a reference attribute. And trust me, the first one is far less complex, and the other one we will just not talk about that for now. That uses Shopware groups. You can read more about this type of cross-selling in our wiki. And if you have more than one cross-selling relation, you can of course use as many rows as you like and use different attributes here, like for example similar products, which is also a typical cross-selling relation. But for now, one is more than enough. Then let's head deeper. Okay, here is the cross-selling relation itself. It has a name. That's the just the name it should have. If you add an attribute here, you can of course always just send the name as a fixed value with this plugin and write a name here. But if you want the name to be always the exact same name as your attribute, you must use send value of the current attribute. Just search current Yeah, there it is. And we say, hey, from this attribute, we want to export the label. Okay. And the rest of it is once again mapped automatically. Just one more thing, if you have more cross-selling relations, just make sure to enter a different modifier here for the cross-selling relation ID. The rest is handled automatically, but if you have more than that, it should be useful to change this one. It might be necessary, I'm not too sure. And then we have the assigned products. These are, of course, from our source field, the PIM references that should be exported. Nice thing here again, it is entirely mapped through by the template, so you don't have to worry that much. So it should already be enough just to set the attribute. Okay, so let's see here. If we exported, the cross-selling is down here. The products are connected with their position. They can be differently sorted if you change the exported values, but that's too specific. Just let's check if the product has the cross-sellings as well. Yes, it does. One of the cross-sellings is called accessories, and there are the connected products. One important thing about cross-sellings, for example, if I delete the 3D glasses here and export it again, it will receive an error like this one, which says one or more cross-sellings of the product nanocrystal were removed because they were pointing to a yet non-existent product in Shopware. So if you want to connect something in Shopware, it must be there, of course. We cannot connect invisible objects. So the cross-selling is still it still tries to send it, but it is not there, so it is preemptively filtered out, and the cross-selling in the product then has only the two. So if you see this error, you know that you still have to export the other ones, and then, well, export it again to have the entire cross-selling relationship. So just normal thing, just like the main variant ID, to set something, it must already be there, of course. Exporting into a Shopware field. Let's say you don't know how to fill the value weight here. You want to fill it, say it with 540. Then you can find that out by storing it yourself. You have to press F12 to open the development editor and then save your product, fill it by hand, save your product. Then you see this sync entry here and see the payload, and then you can see, hey, weight was sent in 540 was sent in weight. So we know, okay, when we want to synchronize that value with the connector, we just have to add the datamap row weight. So that's pretty nifty if you want to find something new. That's it for now about the Shopware 6 connector. I hope this tutorial was helpful to you. As mentioned, the configuration of this video will be downloadable for you in the old cloud templates. If you still have questions or requests for us, you can always contact us via mail at SAWSConnector@saws.de. For me as a developer, I prefer you to create a ticket in our Redmine system at redmine.saws.de, but the choice is yours. My name is Paul, and thank you for watching.